Hello everyone, this is MMA Interesting Prospects podcast. Today our guest is Matthew Leonard, who will be making his pro debut on LFA 185. Hello Matthew, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
I'm good. Matthew, you will be making your pro debut in probably the best regional promotion there is, it's LFA. So if you can tell me, how do you feel before this bout?
I feel really good, mostly just excited. I mean, I've been waiting for this for a long time. I had a lot of amateur fights. I had 8 amateur fights, and I really wanted to take my time and not rush myself through the amateur. That way, I'd be prepared by the time I get to pro. So, yeah, I've been planning for this, training, preparing for this for a few years now. So, I'm just so excited.
And according to Topology, you are actually one of the best lightweights in US because you are like number 3 on US Midwest, and of course you beat some really good amateurs. So probably it was like best moment to make your pro debut.
Yeah, exactly. All my opponents were either undefeated or had really good records. I mean, every opponent I took was a challenging fight. And yeah, I think it's actually been a little hard to get an opponent for this first pro fight. I've been waiting for like probably, 5 or 6 months trying to get scheduled with an opponent. And I think part of that is people seeing my amateur record and seeing my amateur rankings and like the people that I beat. So, it's a good problem to have, right? Like I want people to be afraid of me, avoiding me. So yeah, I'm really proud of what I've done so far. And now this being my first pro fight, I feel like I'm just getting started.
And do you know anything about your opponent? It will be Isaiah Flores. It seems to be a overall good fighter, but did you like have a chance to watch any of his fights?
Yeah, I've seen footage on his fights. I'm a little familiar with him. I believe we actually fought on the same night for one of our fights. He's fought a couple people that I've either trained with or that I know of. And then, of course, I studied as much footage as I can for this fight. So I'm a little bit familiar with him. He seems to be a little bit more well-rounded compared to some of the guys I've fought. In the past, I would fight like a 4-0 wrestler, but he was mostly wrestler, or like a 4-1 kickboxer, but again, mostly a striker. And so Isaiah seems to have a little bit of both, a little bit of striking, a little bit of wrestling. He's a little bit more well-rounded. So I'm just, got to be ready for anything. And basically, it's a fair matchup. That's the best way to say it. It's very, very fair.
And are you prepared as far as the cardio? Because usually you had like fight scheduled in like 9 minutes, so three times 3 minutes rounds, and this will be a of course 3 5 minutes rounds. So do you have a chance like to prepare for this kind of distance?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always training, so I'm always in decent shape. My cardio isn't usually an issue for me. And in fact, the 3-minute rounds have always felt really short. I always feel like they're stopping us and they're cutting us off right when I'm getting in a rhythm. So I'm actually pretty excited to do the 5 minutes. I think the 5 minutes will kind of give me a better chance for my style, especially with the grappling style, not get interrupted, but allow us to fight through. And then in addition to that, at amateur, at least I think it was like maybe 4 or 5 of those fights were scheduled for title fights. And so those were 5 3-minute rounds. So I've been preparing in the past for longer fights. Still, the longest fight I've done has been 3 rounds. But really, the 3 minutes actually feels like I'm getting cut off. So I kind of excited for the 5 minutes.
Sometimes there are fighters that as the amateur they are like this more of the decision fighters, and as the pro they have a like knockouts and submissions because the rounds are like longer and they have more chances to finish the opponent.
Right. I mean, we've got a team of pro fighters, amateur fighters, a lot of good guys. So we're always training for 5-minute rounds. Also, in my grappling competitions, there's 5-minute rounds. So it's not like a new thing. This is something we've trained for. And yeah, basically, when I look at having more time, I usually prefer that because it does give me more time to get a submission, more time to get a finish, more time to feel them out. So in general, I do prefer having more time, whether it's MMA or whether it's grappling.
And you will be making your pro debut in LFA, and are you happy about it because it is such a good organization?
Yeah, I'm excited for LFA. I've been waiting to get a fight with them for a little bit now. I've been offered a couple times. It just didn't go through. But I've been fighting for Ignite, and they're really great, and they're affiliated with LFA. So it was just a matter of time. I was trying to be patient. I knew that they wanted to have me on. So now that I'm finally here, yeah, again, it just feels like this has been a long time coming. You know, I've been preparing, I've been waiting, I've been as patient as I can. And yeah, we're here now. So I'm ready.
And of course, you are a very good grappler. You are actually a very also a very active on the grappling scene. And was it the BJJ the first combat sport that you ever train as far as the like the like on the professional level?
Yeah, pretty much. So I started with wrestling, and that was in high school. And so I started my sophomore year in high school. And so I wrestled 3 years. And then once I got to college, I wanted something similar to wrestling because I fell in love with it. I love the aggression, I love the physical contact. And I was looking around. We didn't have like a team or a club, but I found a jiu-jitsu club at Marquette University where I was going to school. And so I started the grappling at that club. And so I'd done that for a few years. It was probably about 3.5 years of that before I started doing full MMA. And so when I decided to do full MMA, it was like, hey, I'm looking for a fight. I got to learn how to throw some punches now. I've never done any type of striking before. So that was new. And so I just set my mind to it and started training right there. So that's kind of the timeline of how I started with wrestling, fell in love with that, went into jiu-jitsu, got pretty good pretty quickly, and then started learning the MMA.
And the crazy fact is that you have a much more knockouts than submissions in amateur MMA.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I wanted to do a grappling match, I would go do a grappling match. So while that is my strong suit and I do want to use it in the fight, I'm trying to work on my striking, especially at amateur. That was kind of my mindset. My mindset at amateur was the striking part's new. I've done plenty of competitions grappling. So I made it a point to try and start the fight with striking, try to land shots, and then if I needed to rely on my grappling, then I always could. And so yeah, I'm happy. My first fight was a knockout, and I think it was my third fight was a knockout. So yeah, it's so much fun. I mean, there's nothing like the feeling of just landing your fist against someone's face and they just, go to sleep out cold. Like it's unreal.
But of course, like watching your fights, you are super active on the ground. So maybe you have only one submission, but you are always looking for like chokes, arm bars. So I think that the fans really like this kind of style.
Yeah, I'm definitely more offensive with the grappling. That's just part of how my training started initially because I was a wrestler, so I would get on top a lot when I started to learn the submissions. And so since I was on top, I got a lot of practice of getting submissions from the top, arm bars, triangles, chokes, plenty of different submissions. It does end up happening that they're a little harder to get when someone's punching you in an MMA fight. And so certain chokes, triangle choke, rear naked choke, are definitely more common. Even the armbar, I want to fight not from finishing the armbar, but from doing damage with the use of the armbar position. So yeah, I'm always on the offense. My grappling style is very offensive, like you say, and I love finishing fights. So I always want to get into that submission, either to end the fight or to use that submission as the control position where I can deal strikes to end the fight.
And actually, you had, I believe, lately a combat jiu-jitsu bout also. So it is like something between two sports.
Yeah, the combat jiu-jitsu, it's a little bit in between. It's supposed to be a little bit more like MMA, a way to train jiu-jitsu that's a little bit more like MMA. It's a little bit closer to MMA. It does end up being like that a little bit in terms of the strikes, and the ground and pound. You have to be more active. You can't sit still. So like a normally grappling match, sometimes when you're really technical, it's a game of inches. It's a game of like just small isometric holds. But with the strikes, you can prevent some of that stalling. You can open up some of the movement. The only thing that changes is that in MMA, when you're trying to pass the guard, they can kick you. They can kick you from their back. Whereas in the combat jiu-jitsu, there's no kicks. So that makes the guard passing end up being a little bit more like traditional jiu-jitsu. But then you've got those strikes that makes it kind of like the MMA ground and pound. And so I've done two of those competitions now with the combat jiu-jitsu, and that was so much fun. I can't wait to do that one again as well.
There is of course like the biggest tournament in this sport is EBI. So maybe in like a few months or years we can see you in the lightweight or welterweight tournament.
I would definitely look forward to trying to qualify and compete in that. I feel like I might need to do a little more training to get to that point because the combat jiu-jitsu, while it does combine some of what I've already done, it is still slightly new. So, I'm still learning. I'm always learning, no matter what it is that I do. I'm trying to improve. So yeah, EBI in the future, I'd love to do something like that.
And if you can tell me more about the gym that you are currently training, what is a gym and who is your main coach?
So our gym is Intercept MMA in Forest Park, Illinois. It's a great gym. It's run by Danny Sommers. He's our head coach. And then his wife, Anna Sommers, she's an active professional fighter in MMA as well. And so it's the perfect thing. It's everything you want in a gym. We have knowledge, we have physical ability, we have a tight knit team, but still plenty of active fighters. I mean, this weekend, like today, we've got one of my teammates, George, fighting in Cicero. And then we've got also another one of my teammates, Tyler Beal, fighting for APFC. And then next weekend, Anna Sommers is fighting. And then the weekend after that, I'm fighting. And so this is typical for our gym where we're busy every weekend. I mean, Danny and Tyler and the other coaches, they do such an amazing job giving themselves to us and being there for us and traveling with us and coaching and providing everything we need. So it's an amazing place. I love being there. Can't recommend it enough. If anyone else is out there interested in getting into training, it's a great place to be. We've got all levels, we've got beginners. And if your aspirations are to get into competition or to get into, the MMA side, we have a very active team of fighters. So, it's the best place to be.
And when I'm searching the prospect, this gym is like sometimes I saw the name because of like few very good young fighters like amateurs or like early pro that they train in the gym. So I think that especially for younger people it can be like a great factory of prospects.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've got a lot of really good amateurs. We've got a few pros that are a little bit newer, so they worked their way from amateur to pro all within our gym. I've been doing about half of my amateur fights at Intercept, and they've prepared me for my pro debut now. So yeah, it's a great place to be. You'll definitely hear from us because we have so many fighters, and we're on every card. We're in the Midwest. We're going to Vegas. Everything. I mean, we're fighting all over the place.
And did you ever thought about going for like maybe outside of camp for like 1 or 2 months to other like let's say super gym just to see how it looks like from the inside?
It would definitely be interesting to get that experience and go and train with another gym, like one of the, bigger ones in the country, something like that. I would just have to plan it out with the traveling. I don't love traveling, and so, to be away from, my girlfriend and my family for that amount of time would be a little bit tricky, but it's definitely something that I've considered. I just have to put it together how to plan that out. But to be honest, there's also a lot of really good gyms in the area here. So, doing our cross training with Team Cologne in Indiana, doing our cross training with the 10th Planet gyms in the area. I mean, there's a lot of good training around here too. So I'm always trying to visit all these different gyms, and we have a lot of great places to train at.
And when you are outside of the training camp, let's say it will be after your fight, do you like train regularly? So you are in the gym all the time, or you prefer to do more of the rest and just to do something else, not connecting with fighting?
I'm pretty much always training. Even when I'm outside of the camp, I'm using that as time to improve my skills that I haven't worked on. Sometimes I might dial it back a little bit, like the frequency that I'll be at the gym or the intensity. I might try to prioritize rest. I may also increase the amount of just regular lifting that I'm doing to gain some weight and build some strength. But otherwise, I'm pretty much always in the gym. I mean, a slow week, I'm still there multiple times. If I go a week without training, that's a pretty significant amount of time for me not to be training. So I'm always training, and I do think that contributes to my success because number one, I'm always in a good shape. So I don't need to use my fight camp to get in shape. I'm already there. I mainly use my fight camp to peak my training and to keep my reflexes sharp and then to strategize and game plan. But I'm already in shape. There's a lot of fighters I see where they will take time off, and that's a great thing to do. But one of the downsides that those fighters run into is they'll accept a fight that's in like 8 weeks, and then they have to use like at least half their training camp just to get back into the rhythm, get back into shape. And so if you are taking those breaks, you might need a longer training camp. Whereas for me, as soon as I'm done with one fight, I'm pretty much open to the next fight unless I have some kind of travel plans in between. So yeah, I'm basically go from one fight camp to the next fight camp. If it's like a off season, I'm still training, I'm still working, I'm trying to improve those other areas.
I think that it is a great mindset because sometimes there are fighters who are like outside of training camp, they are like much heavier. So it's sometimes it's problematic because they need to cut a lot of weight, and of course because of this, their performance can not be as good as that they would like to. And because we are all the time in the shape, it's probably better thing because even like if the like short notice opportunity will appear, you can take the fight not like thinking about cutting much of the weight.
Exactly. Luckily, I haven't had to take too many super short notice fights, but I'm always ready for them. I'm always thinking about them and saying like, okay, I'm here right now. I'm training right here. I can imagine that I might get a call for a fight within, 3 or 4 weeks. Would I be ready? And I could say, all right, I'm pretty much ready. That way, when that offer does come, I know if I can say yes or not. And you're exactly right. There's a lot of fighters where they have to deal with just their other fitness, whether they're gaining weight and they got to get their nutrition on point, or whether they're just not training in general and they have to kind of get their cardio back. That is just going to put them at like a disadvantage. And so I want to put myself kind of ahead of everybody else and eliminate as many factors as I can in the preparation. I don't want to have to worry about all like 10 different things all at once. I want to focus on the most important things that I can get out of it. And then also training like at all times is my way of trying to put in the hours. I want to have more mat time, more sparring time, more total hours than someone who's been training a similar number of years. And as long as that's quality training, that's essentially how I've been able to have so much success in these first couple of years. It's been probably, I don't know exactly, but a little more over 3 years that I've been doing MMA. And I didn't know how to throw a punch at all before that. I've had, 8 amateur fights now. And I think all of that is because I'm just constantly trying to put in more hours, constantly trying to put in more time. I've fought people who have 10 plus years of kickboxing experience or MMA experience. I've fought people who are undefeated or who have had high school and college wrestling experience. They'll have like 4 to 8 years of wrestling experience. And so I haven't spent nearly as much time in terms of like years of length, but since I'm always training, I'm getting a similar number of hours in training and I'm always in shape. So that's my mindset around it. And I do accredit that to a lot of my success is obviously the training needs to be quality. But even when I'm tired, I try to show up because I'm getting more hours in, I'm getting more reps in, and that's going to put me ahead of everyone else.
Yes, like watching your fights, we definitely know that you can throw a punch, not one,
Oh, I
that are like great series of punches. And when you are thinking about your career, your like near future, uh, do you see the UFC as the like main goal for you, or you like see your career in a like different direction, let's say?
I knew you were going to ask that because everyone asks that about UFC. I mean, it's the biggest promotion. I'm open to it. I still got some ways to go. This is my first pro fight, so I want to continue to have success. And if I can compete at that highest level, then I'm definitely open to fighting under possibly one championship, possibly UFC, possibly PFL. I would love to compete at that level, especially as a professional athlete. That's something that kind of really motivates me and drives me. But this being my first pro fight, I mean, I'm looking to the future and I'm saying, hopefully I can get good enough, but I have some room to improve. And so my first goal is to get several wins at pro. And then once I have that goal, then it'll be okay. Now I want to start looking for a bigger promotion and kind of step by step. So I'm trying to take my time and not rush it. I do think that a few people, when they just start out, they do have really, really high ambitions, which isn't bad. But the downside is that they're looking at like, oh, I need to be here, or I need to be there, or I need to do it right now, or I need to do it, in the next couple months. And really, I think people are going to have more success if they take time. And so I'm still somewhat young. I'm 25. I've got a few years to go. So I'm not going to rush into it. I'm going to take my time and do one step at a time. So I'm focusing on my immediate goal. But of course, if I can continue this success, I would love to fight at the highest level. I would love to fight in the UFC, One Championship, any of those big promotions.
Sometimes fighters are so focused on getting to the UFC that they have like less experience in regional scene, and they are like 5 or 6-0, but they didn't spend as much of the time as they should be as they should in the gym. So this is maybe a like good thing that you want to be more prepared, and then like take more of the fights on the regional scene, and then go to the like bigger promotion as like complete MMA fighter.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, this is the reason why I took so many amateur fights, is because I needed to give myself time to prepare. I mean, at one point I was 4-0 and I was facing Jerry Ariola, who's also 4-0. And I was thinking, if I win this fight, I'm 5-0. What excuse do I have not to go pro? Because even before that, people were saying, oh, you got to go pro, you got to go pro. And so in my mind, I was like, 5-0. I mean, I can't even argue with that. Now I ended up losing that fight. That was my only loss at amateur, but I really needed that because then I was 4-1 and I said, I need to make back a few wins. I need to learn. I need to get some experience because I don't feel ready yet. And so I've done that now. I've had some more amateur fights. I've won those amateur fights since then. And so now I can kind of accept any challenge that comes up. I want to build up early, and then that way I can just say yes, 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 bang, 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 all in a row, do short fight camps, take short notice fights, and just ride the wave. But I want to prepare as much as I possibly can before that. Because I mean, too, like we see these prospects that are either trying to get into the UFC or they get into the UFC and they have some steam behind them, but they have very short period of time to win a fight, go to the next fight, win a fight, go to the next fight, and it's really challenging. I know the time once I get there is going to be limited. So I'm trying to put the time in early beforehand. So that way, when I only have a couple of months notice, I already feel like I've done so much training that, I'm ready. So again, that's part of my mindset. It's one step at a time. It's build up beforehand and then just go all the way. And I mean, hopefully it works. It's working so far, I guess.
And the contract with LFA, is it like one fight deal?
This is just a one fight contract, yes. So, if I win this one, I might get a contract for multiple fights. I've had friends that will do like a 3-fight contract. So that's something that I am anticipating.
I think that it would be great, because in this promotion you will get another like a very good talent, like also maybe not super experienced, but skill wise, like very, 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 very skillful and very like promising young fighter. So I think that it would be a perfect place for you right now to fight against another like top level prospects, like top 5 or top 10 on the amateur scene.
Yeah, I agree. I think this will be a really good promotion. I'd love to do, my first handful of pro fights there. And this is the type of promotion where you might face the first couple fights might be, a relatively fair fight in terms of like they're at your level or they're also a new pro fighter. But very quickly in this type of promotion, you start to face those big higher level guys. You start to face the people with a lot more experience, with the top prospects. And so, again, I've tried to put the hours in beforehand because, I win 1 or 2 fights, they're going to give me some kind of monster out there and I got to be ready within a few months. So, yeah, I totally agree. And I'd love to do, 3, 4, or 5 fights with LFA.
And when you are thinking about like your future opponents and the style that they can present, do you have a like style in mind that can give you some problems right now? Like maybe great wrestler, maybe very, very powerful striker.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, from the very first day, I tried to cover all my weaknesses and be as well-rounded as I can. That's why even in my first fight, I didn't do any grappling, and even in my next few fights, I focused a lot on striking. And so in my amateur career, I've faced people who are pretty much pure wrestlers. I've faced people who are pure strikers. I've faced people that are a little in between, some bigger people, some faster people, different sizes. And so ideal scenario is that I'm prepared for anybody. I don't want to have any weak areas. I don't want to have any weaknesses, you know. So I probably could identify areas that I need to improve. I could definitely identify areas that, I'd be nervous about if a fighter has certain skills. That's more between me and my team. I don't know if I should say that for my opponents to see. But I will say I try to train to meet the demands of the fighter that I'm facing, and I try to train to avoid having any weak areas. I do want to be, even if I have like a A game or like a main style, I still want to be well rounded. And especially that kind of goes back to your question of like, do I want to get to that highest level? Those guys at the highest level, even though they may be a striker or they may be a grappler, they are all well rounded. They all know how to do all the strikes. They all know how to defend themselves in every position. You know, being at the top at the highest level, even if they're insanely good at one particular thing, they know how to defend any type of submission, any type of strike, any type of thing like that. And so I recognize that early. I want to build myself up for that and not have any of those weak areas.
And who is your favorite fighter to watch? Do you like watch UFC shows regularly? Do you have
Oh yeah.
so do you have probably the fighter, your favorite fighter?
Yeah, I mean, favorite is hard, but Israel Adesanya is great to watch. Charles Oliveira is great to watch, fan favorite already. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of fighters that are really fun to watch. Demetrius Johnson is amazing as well. I like a lot of the fighters in one championship. But yeah, I do watch a lot of the fights too. I mean, that's part of building mental reps and seeing how they fight at the highest level and trying to improve from that too.
And Charles is the like fighter who is like super opportunistic as far as his grappling. So he's a super dangerous guy, and this is probably a reason why he's a fan favorite guy.
Yeah, he definitely is not afraid to take risks. I mean, he just steps in there, stands right in front of people, but at any moment he's ready to slap on a submission. And I like to have that type of offensive style as well. Is that even when I'm not in a great position, at any time if I can try and be offensive or try to counterattack, I mean that's important for me in my style.
And do you have a right now a fight that you are looking forward to watch?
To watch, well, Islam versus Dustin Poirier is going to be a big fight. That's going to be awesome. This previous Max Holloway fight versus Justin Gaethje was incredible. I mean, that lived up to all its standards. So that was really impressive.
And do you think that Dustin will defeat Islam? Do you think that he have a a chance to win it?
He definitely has a chance to win it, no doubt. I mean, he's got some of the most fights in the UFC. I mean, if anyone has a chance, he does, but it's really hard to make that type of prediction, you know? I mean, I thought Volk had as good a chance as anyone, and he did well, but he struggled and he was defeated. And so, I mean, it's MMA. Anyone has a chance. Anyone has a puncher's chance.
Probably because Dustin is also one of the fan favorite guy. I think that a lot of people will cheer for him, but of course it will be a super tough fight because Islam also from like 3 or 4 years ago he also is super improved from this moment. So he's like knocking people out, submitting them. So it will be definitely a tough one.
It'll be a tough one for sure. Yeah. I mean, Poirier is the one who's defeated Connor as well. So like you got to give him props. You got to say he's been in a battle with every single caliber of fighter. If anyone's ready for caliber of Islam, it's him. But you're right, Islam has actually been improving even at the highest level, which is just incredible. And it's like, how do you even plan to fight someone like that?
And outside of fighting, what do you like to do when you have some free time? And anything not connected with MMA?
Well, I should mention my dogs. I have two huskies, so I spend a lot of time with them. Yeah, they're a little bit needy, so taking them for walks and taking them to the dog park or playing with them. I mean, they're just awesome. They're so fluffy and cuddly, so I love spending time with them.
So we do also can take some time to like spend time with them.
Yeah.
And when you are when you have a few hours to the fight and you know that you will be fighting against another like super tough trained MMA fighter, how do you deal with the stress in this time in this like few hours to the fight?
Yeah, I think that timing is like really, really important for the fight. You don't want to be too excited. You don't want to be too like sleepy. Like some people take a nap before they go. I think that's kind of wild. That couldn't be me. I do feel that excitement. I try to treat it as like it's not necessarily nerves, it's excitement because it's your body preparing, getting ready for that. And so main thing I want to avoid is just getting a huge adrenaline dump. So I just try to have like a decently hard warm up so that I'm ready for that. But the waiting is very annoying to me. I hate waiting around. I mean, some of my amateur fights was for a title fight, so I'd be like the last fight of the night, and you're getting there to the event at like 4:35 for the fighter meeting, and then I'm not fighting till like 10 p.m. and I'm just waiting around and trying to warm up but not get too warm, trying to not cool down too much. So it's a tricky thing. So for me, I prefer not to wait. My last combat jiu-jitsu match, I was the first match of the night, and I actually loved that because I just show up, I warm up one time, I'm ready, and then I go out there. So I try to have like a really hard warm up, and then I try to time that so I don't have to cool down too much, and then I want to just go and just get right in.
And do you like to listen to music or podcasts in this time?
I usually don't. I just feel like it's a slight distraction where I just want to be like ready. It's just so much anticipation that it just feels like at any time like you're gonna get called out to go out there. Even though there might be a few fights before you, it's like this one could just end instantly, or this one could end instantly, or you have to wait longer for intermission. So it's like I'm just trying to be ready so that I can just go right away. I'm trying not to be distracted by anything. So I guess that's kind of how I deal with it, is I try to avoid the distractions and I try to just dial in.
And I have one last question in the end. If you can learn one skill, but also outside of MMA, what kind of skill would you like to learn?
Hmm, that's an interesting question. Um, Man, it's hard to say. I mean, I do a lot of different sports. I'm definitely like a competitive person. I'm definitely a sport person. So, I've done different things, whether it's different sports or like rock climbing or different kind of like lifting weights and things like that. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I always wanted to learn like surfing. So maybe that would be a skill, like some kind of other, it's gonna be some physical activity because I'm just a physical person. So yeah, maybe surfing, something like that.
Okay, Matthew. So many thanks for the conversation. I'm really like looking forward to your fight, and I hope that after this you will get a longer contract with the promotion.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the podcast.